This is the Dull Man's Podcast, the podcast for dull men
and women
who get excited about dull things.
Welcome to another edition of the Dull Man's Podcast. This is episode 23, I believe, and joining me in the studio, we are very lucky to have Sarah Steele, author and upcycler.
Hello, lovely to be here again.
So nice to have you back, Sarah.
Was there a moment where you almost forgot her name there, Dave?
I was beginning to think that, actually.
Well, if there was, I'll edit out that gap. But,
okay. Yeah, but then you've got to edit out this.
Well, that's all right. It's only you speaking.
That's fair enough.
You usually get edited out, let's face it.
And the other voice you can hear, of course, is top 800 comedian Demitris Deech. Hello,
Demitris Deech, it's me.
How are you?
I'm very well, Dave. Yeah, very well.
Good. And how's your week been, Sarah?
My week's been good. I mean, it helps the weather is lovely. Well, it doesn't actually, because I've got lots of work to do, which is indoors.
So
how are you coping with the lack of coffee? You gave up coffee 2 weeks ago?
Coffee. Well, no, fairly recently. Because when I'm really busy with work, I get quite anxious about it and a bit jittery, and filling myself with caffeine seemed like a really stupid thing to do.
Did you have some withdrawal symptoms?
No, actually, because I drink good decaf. So if I'll go to a cafe and have a really good decaf. So it tastes the same. And I still wake up and think, God, I need a coffee. And I'll make a decaf and drink it and think, that's better.
And you think you trick your body.
Yeah.
I think it works. Yeah.
I just say it didn't work for me because I gave up coffee many years ago. I made the mistake of reading a Carol Vorderman detox book.
Right.
And one of the things it said was give up caffeine. And I
give up numbers.
Being gullible, I gave up caffeine. I think it was Carol Vorderman. Anyway.
Give up wearing bras.
And thanks, Deech, for bringing the tone down again. I gave up coffee. And I did go through cold turkey. I mean, I don't think it wouldn't have... Cold coffee, indeed. And I just had headaches for about 2 weeks.
I've known you when you haven't drunk coffee, Dave, and that gives me a headache.
Yeah, well, that's true enough, yeah.
Gives me a headache when he's on coffee.
And that's if haven't drunk it for an hour or two. But so I think it's quite brave. And it's great that you haven't had any withdrawal symptoms.
It's absolutely
really
fine. And I do feel better for it, actually.
Any specific upsides to it?
I sleep better.
Sleep better?
Yeah.
Improved sex life? Or?
I'm not going to talk to you about that on the Dull Man's Podcast. It's too interesting.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the dull men would get very excited.
Get hot under the collar.
We'd have to rename it.
Let's move on from coffee because I want to know what we're going to talk about today. Sarah, what are you bringing us in this podcast?
I want to talk about one of my favourite hobbies. Apart from sarcasm, and that's hoovering.
Hoovering?
Very good.
Okay. And we'll talk about the fact that there aren't actually many hoovers left anymore. They're mostly other manufacturers, but we'll come to that later. But I'm looking forward to that. Deech, what are you talking about?
The first ever road trip.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The first ever.
The first ever noted road trip.
You're going to talk about any subsequent road trips or just that first one?
Well, I'm going to bring in the first one.
And then
and that's with a motor vehicle, not as...
I was going to say it's not on foot, because when you said earlier road trips, I thought, well, isn't the first one sort of,
Yeah, was it to Damascus?
Everybody going to Nazareth.
the biblical one. That's what
and kings and
we're taking this very biblical now, yeah.
Okay, so road trip in a car.
In a motor vehicle.
Right, okay.
Motorised.
And I'm going to talk about mattresses.
Okay.
And you may say, that sounds very dull, Dave. And you'd be right.
Yes.
But I will make it interesting and sparkling.
Good.
So that's all on the Dull Man's Podcast. Okay, it is time for feedback. Shall I do the jingle? It's feedback time, it's feedback time, it's feedback time, it's feedback time, it's feedback time. There we are. Dick Van Dyke is in the room. Feedback. We got some great feedback this week, actually. We got this message, which I'm going to now play you and see what you think of this. So get your headphones on.
Hi guys, it's Rosie from Devon here. I've loved the podcast from the word go. Keep up the good work, although don't let your egos inflate too much. I've got a fun fact from Faye's comment last week about avocados being the most popular shopping list item. I'm quite smug about this fact, and it's a bit of a controversial opinion. So avocados aren't vegan. Not only are they linked with deforestation, but the bees that are needed to pollinate the plants have to be imported because they don't naturally habit around the plants. So every time someone tells you that they're vegan, ask if they eat avocados. But I will be very smug in my meat eating ways and carry on enjoying avocados because I like them as well.
Great one, Rosie.
So Rosie from Devon. But yeah, what do we think about that? I mean, I would have, when she said, avocados aren't vegan, I thought she meant, there was some sort of weird meat in them, but she was actually talking about their production methods.
Yeah, so if you eat an avocado, then you are
affecting the animal.
Affecting the animals, because she said you have to bring in a bee. You have to bring in a bee to look after the avocados.
I don't understand if that's true.
Yes,
maybe Rosie can give us some more feedback about this. But if that's a fact, how did the first avocados grow? Because they presumably didn't bring in bees when they discovered avocado.
Maybe those avocados were near the bees required.
Yes, they're probably growing them in a country where they never used to have them.
Yeah,
like that.
Because we can't have avocados in this country, right?
Yeah. Oh, we can't grow them.
No,
we
can't allowed to eat them. Yeah. Yeah, it's not. It's taboo.
Yeah. In fact, my youngest daughter loves avocado and consumes lots of them.
Wow.
But they are bad for the planet.
Yeah.
They're causing all sorts of problems.
Hold on. Is that what you have just ascertained from Rosie, or did you know?
No, I've heard this.
You look like an avocado right now.
Thanks, Deech.
You do.
It's true. That is avocado green.
Yeah. Come on, let's peel her. Let's see if she's got a massive stone in her.
Are you, by the way, Deech is wearing a Canada t-shirt today, and I'm wondering if that's in honour of the fact that their general election was yesterday.
Yes.
We record this.
Yes.
And with a
Yes, I'm a Mark Carney fan.
Are you? Right, right.
My wife actually has the hots for Mark Carney when he was governor of the Bank of England, which is a weird one, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those professions, isn't it? It gets you going.
Yeah, governor of the Bank of England, whoever it might be. Melvin King. She's got all their posters on the wall.
You go into a bar and say, "Hey, babe, I'm governor of the Bank of England."
That will open
Mrs.
some
Deech
doors.
Got a coat on.
That's Deech's chat-up line.
Yeah. I'm the top 100 Bank of England governors.
Anyway, thank you, Rosie, for that feedback. That has made us all think about avocados a lot more.
Dave, you're going to talk about your mattress. You've got some interesting facts about your mattress, or just mattresses in general?
I want to know about Dave's mattress.
Well,
I'll have you know I've got quite a new mattress, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did
you wear your other one out?
Well, it was just very old.
Okay.
So yes, is the short answer.
Okay.
But I want to talk about mattresses in general, because it turns out that they're not dull at all. They're very interesting subject. So first of all, definition. You might think, why do you need a definition of a mattress? But a mattress is a large, usually rectangular pad for supporting a person lying down, especially for sleeping. Now, you might think, well, that's really obvious, but just in case anybody out there doesn't know what a mattress is.
Yes.
I've just defined it. So
I just want to say I'm pleased that it said normally rectangular, because I have slept on a heart-shaped mattress.
You've not.
I have.
What, are you in Vegas or something?
I was in America in a motel.
Oh, wow. Were you
not in Vegas?
Were you on your honeymoon? Or?
No, it was when I was working at the summer camps out there. You would get one night off a week, so all of the sort of 18, 19, 20, 21 and 22-year-olds, as we were, would sort of go off and
so you
stay in a motel.
You booked into the Love Motel.
Yeah.
More in hope than expectation, I suspect.
Well, there were about 17 people on this mattress, which, may I say, sounds a lot more exciting than what it was. We were just drunk and disorderly, and it wasn't really until the next day. I was like, was that a heart-shaped mattress? It's like, yeah, we were in the honeymoon suite, but you wouldn't want to stay in the honeymoon suite of the Hancock Motel.
I'm curious about the logistics of a heart-shaped mattress, because it sounds all very lovely and romantic.
Yes.
But surely your feet fall off the end, I
suppose it depends how big it is, doesn't it? I mean, if it's big enough, there might be a good square central section.
Do you have to lie in a triangular formation so that all the 4 feet end up at the point of the heart?
There were various issues of that night. how I slept and where my feet
How
ended
many
up.
on broadcast?
Can I just say this subject is not going in the direction I expected.
You brought mattresses to the table.
I'm going to ask you a question. I've got a couple of questions for you, actually. And by the way, we are running interesting fact of the episode today. I forgot to mention that earlier. We are running interesting fact of the episode, which for those listeners who haven't heard that, at the end, the three of us will vote on what was the most interesting fact that comes out today. So obviously, we're all trying to get that interesting fact in there. So here's my first interesting fact, which I'm going to put as a question to you. When do you think mattresses were sort of, became a thing? When were they invented? What would you say?
Oh, well, I'm hoping it was BC. I'm hoping it was in the time of Alexander the Great. The reason being, Oliver Stone made a movie called Alexander
and his mattress.
Well,
that
I was
well-known movie.
May I say, I was in 2 scenes of that film. And,
What?
Yeah, I was in, and Colin Farrell, who was playing Alexander, he was on his deathbed, and he was on a huge mattress. He was on a huge bed.
Right.
So the two scenes I was in is him dying on his mattress.
Not down to you.
No, I think it was probably various venereal diseases, I think is what the stories
So
say.
it's still not down to you.
No. I was playing a Persian bodyguard. So, but who knows with Alexander the Great? He was Greek after all.
Interesting career you've had, Deep.
Yeah, it is. And then the other one was him being dead and people fighting over his body. And he led on the mattress. But one of the things I do remember is that the mattress, the bed, was huge. And I don't know if that's at the time they thought, well, that a king, an emperor would have had a huge mattress, or that cinematically it would only work with it being a huge sort of mattress.
Because you have sort of queen size, king size, all that sort of thing. So presumably that was an emperor size mattress.
It would have been, I'd say it was bigger than the emperor size mattress.
Right. So ruler of the universe size.
Like a continent.
So with that, I am going to say 300 BC.
Okay.
Are
Sarah?
we talking patented or
No, just when people
general
stopped
use?
sleeping on the floor, basically.
I don't know. It's probably some farmer who decided to stuff a sack with
Yeah.
some straw.
Well, you're right, actually. I mean, it's ancient civilizations. I'm going to give you some interesting dates and stuff in a minute. But yeah, basically, mattresses have been around a hell of a long time. Obviously, they were made of interesting materials. The first known mattresses were made, for example, of straw and leaves. So
Don't get those in IKEA, do you?
So they had them. Ancient Egyptians and Romans used straw-filled sacks as mattresses to provide a comfortable sleeping surface. These sacks were often laid on the ground or on a raised platform to provide insulation and cushioning. Then animal skins were also used as mattresses, such as deer hides, things like that. They were obviously stuffed with
That does sound cozy.
with
doesn't it?
straw
Yeah, I
and
slept
hay.
on one of those in Sweden.
Did you?
once
An
at
animal
I went
skin
to a
mattress?
festival. It was a really strange festival. And we
You went
ended
to-
up sleeping in an Iron Age hut on
Oh,
animal
right,
skins.
on animal skins.
And I
was
could
it comfy?
not get the animal hairs out of my sleeping bag. For weeks afterwards, I had to keep washing it. Yeah.
Yeah. They stick to it,
It
don't
was a
they?
bit-
Yeah.
Palm boughs.
Pardon?
The boughs of palm trees were also used.
BOUGH.
Yeah. In some regions, palm boughs were used to create sleeping surface. Palm leaves were woven together to form a mat, which was then used as a mattress.
Okay.
Feathers, which of course we're more familiar
Yes.
with now. Feathers were also used as mattress filling in some cultures. Ancient Europeans used sacks filled
Feathers
with
always
feathers.
get me down.
That's very good. Thank you very much. No wonder he's top 800 comedian with jokes
I
like
think
that.
he's at least 790.
Yeah, well, there's some discussion about that. Anyway, over time, obviously, mattresses changed and they improved. In the 18th century, bringing us a lot more up to date, so in sort of the 1700s, mattresses began to be made with more sophisticated materials. Feather beds, which were filled with goose or duck feathers, became popular among the wealthy, showing their status and social mobility. Mm-hmm. So if you could afford it, you could get something pretty good.
Would you have to bring your friends in to show them your
Well, I
mattress
suppose you
to
would.
prove
yeah,
how
yeah,
socially
yeah.
up
The
it
19th
was?
century, mattresses continued to evolve, and in 1805, a British inventor named Samuel Whitman patented a method for making more comfortable and supportive mattresses, and he used coiled springs. So, of course, springs we're all familiar with now. Coil spring mattress was born then, thanks to Samuel, and that became the standard for decades after that. So that was 1805. That's quite early, really. That's the year of Trafalgar, for example. Okay. So that was when the spring mattress was invented. And then throughout the 19th century, the technology behind spring mattresses continued to improve. 1865, a German inventor named Heinrich Westphal patented the first pocketed coil spring mattresses. And the point about the pocketed coil spring mattress, it was a significant improvement because they didn't affect one another. So you didn't sort of, if you rolled over, it didn't kind of, the person on the other end of the mattress didn't roll with you. Yeah. And because they were sewn into these separate fabric pockets. So that pocket idea of the spring then became a big thing and basically offered better support, reduced motion transfer, as they call it in the mattress world. And then in the early 20th century, mattresses began to be made with new materials, such as, the Dunlop Rubber Company invented a process where they could produce latex foam, and so latex foam mattresses became quite popular in the 20s. And then in the 50s, memory foam was invented. Do you know who invented memory foam?
I don't remember.
It was NASA.
Oh, okay.
NASA invented memory foam as a way to improve the safety of aircraft cushions, but it was quickly adopted by mattress manufacturers because it was cheap and it was very supportive and people liked it. And then bringing us right up to date, of course, we have things in the 60s and 70s. We had waterbeds.
Oh yeah,
there was a big sort of fashion for that. I think in the States it was in the 60s, and then by the 70s it had arrived in the UK, and it was a large sort of bladder filled with water.
Oh, who wants to sleep on a bladder?
Again, my time in America, I slept on a waterbed.
Yeah, funny enough, so did I in America, and I had mixed feelings about it, to be honest.
Do you remember the sound?
Yeah,
all the way through the night.
Slosh, yeah, and they can be heated, you see, because
by weeing on it,
because in the winter it's too cold. You can't, if you slept on water in the say that the water had got down to a certain temperature, that would draw your body heat away and it'd be very bad for you.
Okay,
so you have to heat them
like a kettle.
But here's another question for you: do you know when waterbeds, or as they're actually really called, fluid beds? When that first
worse, isn't it?
When that first came about,
fluid bed.
So give me a
some of you having a care home.
So when was the first? Let's call it a waterbed for the sake of argument. When was the first waterbed?
Well, you sort of gave it away that it was invented in the 1950s, didn't you?
Well, I said they became popular in the 1950s.
Okay.
So I think the answer might surprise you. Shall I just go ahead and tell you?
Just do it.
Okay.
You can't guess.
So the first, there is evidence of mattresses that were made from goat skins bladders filled with water in 3,600 BC. Can you believe that? 3,600 years.
That's ancient Greeks.
Yeah. I mean, it's a long, long time ago. And there was, they think people were filling goat skin bladders with water and sleeping on them.
So that would be a lot of bladders all put together. So it would be like a lilo.
I suppose so. Perhaps they'd sew all the bladders together in some form.
There's no bladder big enough to be a mattress.
No, of course not. But I mean, but the point is, you are sleeping on a water-filled surface.
I'd love to know how they have discovered that. But that is kind of incredible.
Yeah,
but they'd have used bladders for footballs and.
Well, I don't think they'd invented football, but
probably as receptacles.
Yes, of course they would have used them as receptacles. So I suppose, somebody noticed. Oh, these bladders are quite soft and squishy. Maybe I can sleep on a few of those. And
So they probably started off as a pillow or something.
And
before that, they were just using their arm.
Before that, it was a goat. I think you'll find.
Before we leave this riveting subject of mattresses, do you know how you? If you with your own mattress, how you avoid it wearing unevenly?
You flip it, don't you?
That's exactly right. Yeah. You flip it, or you can flip it upside down.
Yes.
Or, as with a lot of modern mattresses, are not. They have a right way and a wrong way, but you can still reverse them. So you can put a bit where your head is, you can put down to the feet and that sort of thing. And you should do that every few months, apparently.
Every few months?
Yeah. I mean,
I've been doing it every night.
I virtually never do it, but
I do.
But you are supposed to.
You set yourself a reminder, Dave. Now you've got yourself a new mattress.
Yeah.
You'll be like, oh, brilliant! First of the month, this mattress.
Yeah. But it's
flipping
heavy.
day.
It's quite hard work.
It is hard
around.
work.
I
Yeah.
tried doing mine's a king size one. I tried doing it on my own, and it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's really,
Oh,
really heavy.
I've just got visions of you just
I know.
being swallowed up by this mattress.
Exactly that.
But that's why that's why they invented partners,
That's
so you
true.
could have somebody to help you shift.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm
None
not
of the partners I've
Now let
had.
me explain. I'm not looking for a husband. I just want somebody to help me
partner,
flip the mattress.
Well, that sounds like a euphemism right up Sarah's street.
So thank you for indulging me in my discussion of mattresses. So Sarah, you are bringing hoovering to the table. I'm quite disappointed you didn't actually bring a hoover or a vacuum cleaner to clean the studio, because it could probably do with it. But what is it about hoovering which is not? I'm slightly uneasy with that.
Is it this is your BBC days?
Yeah, other brands are available.
Other brands are available, yeah, and ironically, Hoovers really aren't. But
No.
it's quite difficult to buy a vacuum cleaner.
I've
that
had
is
a Hoover
branded
washing
Hoover.
machine.
Yeah.
But not a Hoover.
But yet we all still call them Hoovers.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of us do.
Yeah. It's. I just hate it. I hate everything about hoovering. I have 2 dogs, so hoovering is required quite frequently in my house. And I've got one of those pull-along ones with the
With a tube on
thing
it.
on
Yeah.
the front. Yeah.
Is it a Henry?
No, it's a German brand called
Heinrich.
Heinrich. Yeah. Very good, Dave. Woke up in the knife drawer. No, it's a SIBO, which is a very good Hoover machine thing.
So it's not the quality of the machine, the vacuum cleaner that you're complaining about.
It's. So I go to plug it in,
Yeah.
and the lead's on a kind of,
Yeah, you
like a-
pull it out off
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah.
The top
So
of
I
the-
plug it in, take the Hoover over to where I need to start, and then realise I haven't switched it on at the mains. So I have to go all the way back.
Okay, that's a user error, but that's okay.
Yeah, switch it on.
Yeah,
Carry on hoovering
and it's not a huge
again.
house. I mean, it's a lovely house, but it's not huge.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd have to have a massive long lead as well.
Yeah.
For oh god,
We're not talking Hampton Court here, you have to walk to the other end to switch it on.
But then you start hoovering away, and then the plug comes out because you put it too hard. You put it back again.
it yanks out.
God. And then it won't pick up the dog hair properly, so I have to get a tool thing on it and just kind of scrape the dog hair up
Off the carpet.
off the carpet.
My advice is to hoover up the dogs.
Well,
then that would solve the problem.
I did actually take the Hoover extension to
Trainers with rubber
the-
soles pick up animal hairs very well. off
It
the
would take
carpet.
me a long time. I get quite
Well,
fit.
You'd have to walk
Yeah,
over every.
it's just
Well, you
very-
you rub them with your foot like you're a raging bull.
Yeah.
Where they sort of
Yeah,
rub their feet.
pouring
But Sarah,
around.
we could solve some of your problems straight away by
me a
you
cleaner?
indulging in a cordless vacuum cleaner, because
I
they
don't
are
think-
much better than they used to be.
Yeah.
they have
Really?
big batteries now,
Yeah.
and there's quite a few different makes available, and you don't have to plug them in.
I've got a G-Tech.
Because it's also
Yeah.
that upstairs, downstairs thing. So
Yeah,
if you're
well,
hoovering
exactly.
the stairs, you have to do half of it with it plugged in upstairs.
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
won't quite reach.
Well, this would
And
solve
then
all
the
those problems.
bloody thing falls down the
I think this is an
stairs.
advertisement for cordless vacuum cleaners.
I have a cordless. We have one of each. So we have a cordless G-Tech and we have a corded Henry.
Oh, right.
And do you know what? I actually enjoy hoovering, as a chore.
What are you
it's one
doing
of
after this?
Coming
Get
around to
quite
say,
bad round up.
yeah. And you can
I
flip
am-
the mattress as well.
Yeah.
invited
Well, I
round.
don't know about that on
to
a
hoover and
Would you like to
Tuesday.
come and flip my mattress?
So I don't mind that, but with the G-Tech, it makes life a lot easier. But you do have to empty the cylinder, which picks up all the bits and pieces, which is, I suppose, half dog, half human. That's essentially what
yeah.
lies on your carpet.
That sounds
Yeah.
horrible.
Well, it's true though, isn't it?
I suppose so, yeah.
And
Open it up and it barks at you. Runs away.
Hand comes out and grabs you by the neck.
that has to be emptied. To be honest, if you've got dogs, I would imagine you'd have to empty that almost every 1 or 2 rooms because they have a small cylinder which gets packed.
Yeah, I
in.
suppose
Yeah.
that's the disadvantage.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's the disadvantage.
Yeah.
But it does make life easier that you haven't got a cord dangling around, knocking
That
things
is
over.
true. That doesn't solve the problem of, for instance, one's offspring saying, yeah, all right, I'll hoover my room, hoovering their room, and then you go to use it and realise they've just hoovered up things like, I don't know, coat hangers or socks or whatever, and the thing won't work. So then you've got to take it apart. But then the stick or
that's
coat hanger or whatever that they've tried to
Stuck in
heave up
there.
rather than just put it in the bin,
Right.
put it away.
You've got an industrial
Yeah, so I
vacuum
spend
cleaner there.
hours with a bloody screwdriver trying to take this thing apart just to find the.
So I think
they've
basically
heated up.
your children need to go and live somewhere else and take the dogs with them.
Yeah.
And then get a cordless vacuum cleaner, and your life would be perfect.
And borrow Deech.
And borrow Deech
Well,
for the
I-
mattress flipping.
I think, Sarah, what you really need is laminate flooring.
Ooh.
Yeah, but then I've got laminate in my kitchen, and I just end up with kind
And a
of
mop.
drifts of,
Drifts
dog
of hair.
hair.
I know what you mean about that. Actually. Yeah.
and then you try and put that into a dustpan and brush, and it just blows away and
Yeah, we can
laughs
still
at you.
vacuum them. Well, it seems like your dogs are at fault.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah, for telling us about your hatred of hoovering, which is actually called vacuuming.
Thank you very much.
Deech, you are a traveller. You've been around the world. I know we've talked about this in previous podcasts, and you're going to talk to us today about road trips, or one particular road trip, actually.
Yeah, the first ever documented road trip.
Were you on it?
No, because it was in 1888.
You still sure you weren't on it?
Well, yeah,
I
over
ju-
100 years before I was born.
Who documented it? One of the people on it, presumably.
Yeah, so it was a lady called Bertha and her two children. Bertha Benz was her name, and her two children, one being 13 and one being 15.
Was she related to the Mercedes Benz?
Carl Benz, yes.
So presumably they were doing the road trip in a Mercedes-Benz.
Well, yeah, it was a Benz. It wouldn't have been a Mercedes.
Oh, they hadn't merged in those days.
No, that was, I think, 1901 that they got the Mercedes investment and sponsorship. So Carl Benz had invented a car 2 years earlier, got it painted in January 1886. And an example of this machine is actually in the London Museum.
Oh, right, the actual not
the
actual
one,
machine,
not that one, because they
but that model.
But that model, yeah. I don't know what happened with.
So how many did they make? I mean, I wouldn't have thought they had mass
No, they
production.
wouldn't.
in
No,
those
no.
days.
They wouldn't have made many. So that for that first 2 years, they just didn't sell any. They didn't go very far, and they didn't allow anyone who invented one to basically leave their town in them.
Yeah,
It
because
was
presumably it was still mostly horses and carts then, and people on
it was
riders. So
99.9%.
Yeah, so the horseless carriage would have been considered probably a dangerous newfangled.
The
invention.
noise and that would startle not just the horses but people as well.
Yeah,
Just,
of course.
like the actual vehicle itself wasn't allowed to be driven. No one was sort of driving it, and she was quite a gutsy character. Was Bertha Benz, and he was asleep. She woke up and she thought, right, I'm going to really test this vehicle out. And she drove all the way to her mother's, and it was I think a staggering 104 kilometres. There was nowhere to get petrol. There were no petrol stations. So she had to stop a few times once at a pharmacy to get a solvent, which she could use as petroleum. The whole journey on the way, it would take her, sort of us, about an hour. It took her 13 hours to do this journey. That's more. That's the whole day basically. And when she got there, she sent a letter to her husband. I'm now at
Was
my
he still in
mother's.
bed?
Do the hoovering.
slept
Had a
in
list
that
of
day.
post-it. Woke up with all these post-it notes. She had to stop several times to mend the brakes. That she also had to stop every few kilometres to top up the engine with cold water. Otherwise, it would overheat. They wouldn't have had a sort of cycling and pump. Any uphill, it only produced 3 horsepower. So, not particularly powerful. And it only had 1 gear. So they would all have to get out at any uphill to push it.
That's why she
up the
brought
hill.
the kids.
That's why she brought the kids. Yeah,
Yeah, it all makes sense,
absolutely. The carburettor pipe got blocked up at one stage. That's basically the fuel line into the car. And she fixed it. She unclogged it using her...
Amazing.
She was amazing, using her hairpin to clear it out. She also had to fix the ignition, because she obviously would have stopped the car to go uphill or to get petroleum, as I just mentioned, and it wouldn't start. There was a problem with the ignition. I think it was arcing. So she used a garter belt to wrap round the ignition coil, so to stop it, to insulate it, to stop it arcing. she had a problem with the engine chain, so she had to find a blacksmith to get the engine chain
This
mixed.
is all in 13
This is
hours.
all in. Yeah, I know.
She was obviously a very resourceful woman. It's interesting, the Benz company were obviously years and years ahead of the rest of us because it took British Leyland didn't produce a car that unreliable until the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a journey you can still do now. It's sort of about 10 years ago they made it they called it the Bertha Benz, memorial road trip, Mannheim to Forzelm, and you can still do the journey now. And then, of course, she drove back. She had to drive back. She took a slightly shorter route, so only 95 kilometres. And then she came up with the idea of putting another gear on it because she couldn't get uphill. So that wasn't just to do with the power of it being only 3 horsepower. It's because it didn't have the gear rotations to do that. So that was her idea to.
She's my hero.
She is
pioneer.
absolutely brilliant. And what's great is that I learnt about this road trip from my daughter, who one of her school books was about Bertha Benz. Brought about Bertha Benz, don't know this woman, read it and thought that's brilliant. And I love it that at school they teach children about these sort of unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Especially one of the fairest sex.
Yeah.
Heroic women.
I want to write a book about her.
Well, I'm afraid we are nearly at the end of the podcast. Thank you very much for listening. And thank you, Deech, for the Bertha Benz road trip, which was very interesting. And thank you, Sarah, whose name I haven't forgotten. For
Sarah what, Dave? Sarah what?
Oh, no idea. And thank you for telling us about your Hoover exploits with a vacuum cleaner. And before we finish, we have to vote on the most interesting fact of the episode.
Yes.
Okay.
So I hope you've all been scribbling down notes and thinking about what's the most interesting fact.
Well, I'm going to nominate one of my own facts here. The Benz patent motor wagon number 3 was patented as the first ever motorised vehicle, a horseless carriage, the first ever car, on the 29th of January 1886 by Carl Benz.
That's interesting. That is a good fact. But you didn't actually say that during the podcast.
But I'm saying it now. Doesn't matter.
Well, I could just pluck a new fact out of the air then,
Well, by all means do it.
I'm not sure that's in the rules.
I think it's got to be something that's in the broadcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Deech. I think you might
Okay.
have blown
Yeah.
it by not saying.
Okay.
I'm not editing that into the earlier bit.
Okay. Well, okay.
That would make it too easy for you.
Okay, so I will say that my fact that I'm putting in was the first ever road trip was by Bertha Benz from Mannheim to Forzelm, and it was 104 kilometres long.
Okay, Sarah, have you got a fact that you'd like to nominate?
I was going to go for NASA inventing memory foam, but then you talked about Bertha's garter.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
Done it for me.
Yeah. All right, and
Dave, what's yours?
that's a good question. I too was fascinated by Bertha's extraordinary resourcefulness. So I think I'm going to have to go with Bertha as well. I think she's an absolute heroine and or a hero or whatever you want to call her. So yeah, Bertha it is.
Good for Bertha.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to the Dogman's podcast. It's been a pleasure having you with us. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please tell all your friends, share this so we can grow the podcast, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
On your wedding night, there had to be witnesses to you consummating the marriage in Henry VIII's time to make sure it was consummated. Otherwise, it didn't count. So that's fairly uncomfortable.
Well, on my wedding night, I almost slept on King Henry VIII's bed.
And were there witnesses?